Welcome back. You're listening to the panel discussion, the Artificial Intelligence Playbook for Government, sponsored by Data Robot on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guests today are Zerges, the Division Chief for Digital Services and Solution Strategy at the General Services Administration, Dr. Gil Alterovitz, the Director of Artificial Intelligence at the Department of Veterans Affairs, Rear Admiral David Hahn, the Chief of Naval Research at the Department of the Navy, and Eric Forsetter, the General Manager for Public Sector at Data Robot. Last segment, we talked a lot about this idea of data, cleaning up data, and then also kind of getting the use cases. All that to be successful really goes back to, again, the people. And I think whenever we have this conversation about technology, that's the one common theme is the people. Gil, lead us off VA. How are you guys kind of working through that workforce challenge, getting people ready to use and take advantage of these AI tools?
Right. So actually, workforce development in terms of attracting and retaining talent in artificial intelligence is one of our three challenges that we're looking at and have been working with in the National Artificial Intelligence Institute. What we'd like to do is build that AI R&D capacity so that we're able to work and interact with industry. To be able to meet some of the challenges around veteran health. So to do that, we need to have some expertise within the VA to work with that data, to understand which use cases and how that data can work, and to be able to leverage and interact with industry and other partners that have some of that leading edge artificial intelligence technology that we might apply within the department.
Do you find it more difficult to attract or to retain? Because once you get some training, I think those data robot people may not accusing you, of course, Eric, but steal the good people away.
Yeah, I think there are different challenges in both of them. So we have programs, for example, to help attract, such as the BD Step Big Data program. It's a fellowship to help attract people. And I think we're thinking about ways to help retain people. I think they're both issues. I think once it's important to attract more. I think just seeing the mission, we're able to retain a number of people. People see that it's altruistic motive in terms of helping veterans, and I know I see that meeting a veteran. We've got a number of veterans on our team, and seeing that all of the data, being the largest integrated healthcare system in the country. Having like 10 billion images and having the largest genomic database linked to healthcare information in the world, actually, that all allows us to serve that mission. So we have the capability and a great mission. I think that helps to retain people. And so attracting is really the next thing.
David, jump in.
Sure, so a couple thoughts. I'm a submariner by trade. That's where I grew up. Every submariner understands damage control. Something bad happens on your submarine, your life depends on you knowing how to put the fire out, how to stop the flooding, whatever the casualty might be that hazards the ship and therefore hazards you. I look at this potential of artificial intelligence the same way. Every single person in the service needs to be literate in those things that will make AI effective, if this will be transformative for the Navy and Marine Corps. So if the tools are going to be democratized, and we talked about that, that means I don't want to go out and hire special people. I want to just raise the level of literacy inside the service for every single member to the point where it's just like damage control. That's how we conquer the cyber problem, right? Cyber hygiene matters. If every single service member understands how important it is for them to apply cyber hygiene, that's a winner. Right? So AI, same way. So we're looking for partners that can help teach us how to fish, if you will, in the world of artificial intelligence, so we understand what applies at the right point, and then we can bring our entire workforce up along those lines.
Well, one of the things that the Navy has a big benefit over maybe some other agencies is you're always bringing in new recruits. And unfortunately for some of us who are now getting older, the younger people, they have some inherent skill sets, whether it's AI or just the technology side of it, and that's probably a way that you have less time maybe attracting, but more time training.
Well, so I think it's also interesting that the risk tolerance of people who might be a little bit younger than me when interacting with a computer system is very different, right? Their risk tolerance, so they're willing to go and play and learn and understand. We got to give them the tools so they know that when they go and affect that algorithm, affect that data set, monkey with the model, that we understand how on the back end we're going to get a predictive result or the result that adds value or not. So huge challenge here, and I'd like to get some Eric's thoughts on this, because he had some great thoughts during the break.
Yeah. So thank you, appreciate it, Admiral. What we're finding is a lot of agencies are coming to us, and there's several that we're working with right now that, to your point, they want to teach everybody to fish, right? They don't want us to come in and say, here's 10 more contractors, or go hire 10 more big primes, and we'll figure out your problem. What we're trying to do is train the entire agency, from a person who's a receptionist all the way up, through the head of the agency or the admiral, that they're able, and they're AI enabled and they're AI smarter. So we're working with agencies in that regard so that they have the right tool sets, but also the right mentality of what to do, and leverage your current resources. So also train those contractors, right? Because they're important as well. It's not about hiring more people, it's about getting them up to the level that everybody else does. And when you think about that, we're also doing things like training our veterans. So, people who are coming in as new cadets, right, as new ensign, new seamen, we want those people to be trained on it so that, when they exit the Army or exit the Navy or Marine Corps or Air Force, that they can go into the working force, whether it's for the VA or anywhere else, and they do it. We actually have one of our data scientists is a former Army Special Operations Force person. He went through our training, and because of that, he's become a data scientist. That's not to say everybody will become one, but if we can make people citizen data scientists within an agency, then we can answer the problems that are out there, because 80% of the problems, or maybe 85%, can be automated, and anyone can do them with the right tool set. That other 15%, yeah, we're going to need that special data scientist, but we want to leave that for them to do. We don't want them working on the stuff that could be automated. So it's important we teach them to fish, and we have some great programs around just training up the government staff today, because that's where we have to start. We need a baseline, because a lot of agencies come to us and say, we need AI, and we say, okay, where are you right now? And they don't even know where to start. And so it's starting in that regard.
Sean, what's the reaction at GSA, whether internally or externally, as you guys have implemented some of those use cases around AI? Are people excited? Is there a little trepidation?
Great question.
A little bit of both.
Right, great question. I kind of said it earlier, and I absolutely mean it. This is nothing new for GSA, right? New technologies, everybody that's been in IT long enough, this is what we do. This is why we're here. This is what gets us excited, the new stuff coming in. We look at, from the folks that are there, just like I think David touched on earlier, you can't just bring in a whole bunch of new folks, right? You've got staffing that's there. They're well-versed. They understand the use cases. When you break down AI or ML, there's two big components, right? You get your data, and you get the logic and the algorithm. It takes two of those. The data piece is, while not an easy lift, right? That's an easy one to identify. I can shine a light on it. This is where it's coming in. This is where I'm keeping it. This is the structure I need. I need to make these tweaks so I can actually feed it into an ML. Well, the logic piece, it's a little more complicated, right? Because that's the human factor that we're trying to digitize, to take that thought process, that business decision, that action or activity that needs to happen on the back end of that. That's the real heavy lift, and that's the hardest one to identify. And to fill that training gap, that's not bringing in new people, because those people, true story, right? You have to bring some new folks in with talent. The folks that are there that best understand your processes are the one that built that enterprise. They built those business processes. They're the ones that can help you refine that machine learning algorithm and that logic.
Which I think goes back to what Eric was saying. Eric.
Yeah, and to Sean's point, you have these people, these analysts, these cybersecurity experts that know what to do. And so just like in cybersecurity, they know what anomalous detection looks like, but if they could feed it into a machine, instead of having like a Band-Aid for every time that there's a cyber breach, and then you go to a cybersecurity company and 30 days later, like, here, we plugged it. What if these people are actually in the front lines who are used to all the data, they understand it? What if we train them to be able to put together a model themselves, or give them a way to automate it? And then have a data scientist look at it and say, yep, that's right, we're good. We could save thousands of hours, of manpower and cybersecurity breaches if they're able to do that. And we work with agencies on that regard too. So it's important, and it doesn't have to just be cyber. It could be, for something at the Navy, it could be something at the VA. But on that cyber point, I'm sure, you'd love to see things faster, and and ground zero type, hey, we saw an alert today and we're plugging it as opposed to waiting for a vendor to fix it.
How often, let me just real quick, how often are models reusable? If GSA has a model, could VA use it?
Absolutely.
I mean, for a very similar case processing or whatever?
Yes, I think one of the things that's really interesting, and we've been involved in a number of these, creating these AI playbooks, for example, and we find that some of the use cases that are developed in the VA apply in other places, and some of the models in other organizations are applying to us. In particular, there's a number of that's one of the reasons why we're involved in, for example, working with the National Science Foundation on this program around trustworthy AI. Actually, that'll involve a number of different players around the country working together on solving that and enabling models that can be used across different environments.
Yeah. David, jump in.
Yeah, I think this notion of trust is probably the most important thing for us to talk about because as you try to lift models from one organization to the next, if the humans in our lines of business, high consequence, people's health, finances, safety, warfighting, if that high consequence business is not served well by the application of that model because we didn't understand the model or we didn't match it right to the data set, that's gonna get us to another AI winter, right? So I think it's really important that we work through this across the agencies, across the industry and government team to get ourselves in a good place and not rush headlong into a set of applications that don't make a lot of sense. So I applaud the efforts to work in this trustworthy, transparent AI.
When was the first AI winter? That kind of worries me. I think I may have missed it.
That was, I think it was in the 60s.
In the 60s.
It was in the 60s, first AI winter, then the second AI, and
right.
maybe we got one. Maybe we're doing okay here.
Before my time, I'll just have to say that.
Please.
Fair enough. The trust issue, I think, is a really important piece, too. And Sean, let me turn back to you on this, because one of the things that GSA, the way you guys work with internal and external customers, the way you work with other agencies, whether it's VA or Navy, but also with contractors and how you guys serve the citizens, all that trust piece has got to be, has to run across all the governance issues, all the data issues, all the issues we've talked about today.
Absolutely, and I think we've set a fairly good precedence with our open data policies and our practices where, to the maximum extent possible, right? We're going to put that code out there. We're going to put that data out there. We're going to make it available to the average citizen. You don't have to do a FOIA request. Go right here. I've made it available. All our buildings data, for example, leasing data, contract awards, all that stuff is readily available. The trick is right now we're back to data, making decisions, doing analytics. AI, ML feeds into that. The worst case scenario, we'll go to the far extreme, right? Worst case scenario is a black box. There's a formula out there, something's being done, some decision or recommendation is being made. Nobody's aware of it. Now, if I'm a small business owner, veteran-owned business, minority-owned business, and my business is relying on some Fed in GSA to make a decision on an award, I want to trust that whatever AL, ML tool they're using in the back end is feeding them good information. How am I going to trust that, right? I'm no AI, ML expert. What? We're going to be open and we're going to be transparent. We're going to document where we're using AI, ML, again, to the maximum extent possible. What's the rationalization behind the algorithm? I'm not going to paste this paragraph-long algorithm out there in the public, because in common language that people can understand, which goes back to the common terminology and language, not just internally within our staff and with our leadership and our business lines, but with the public. Understand how we're using this, why we're using it. This is the data and decisions we're getting out of this, and this is how it impacts your transactions.
So what I hear you saying is not going to be a Federal Register notice that's going to be 45 pages that nobody understands.
Just for you, sir.
Just for me, yes. Gil, jump in.
Yeah, so I think there's a number of things that we're looking in this area. So one of the aspects, as I mentioned before, with this collaboration with NSF around trustworthy AI to enable a number of different avenues there. We're also looking at exposing a number of different data sets, smaller data sets that and limited data sets so that we can establish partnerships with industry so that they can build and understand an understanding of the type of data that we have, and so that they can build trustworthy models that really look at the type of information and the types of use cases that the veterans would make the biggest difference for veterans.
All right. I know there's plenty more to talk about, but unfortunately we're out of time for today. So let me thank my guests. Sean Zerges is the Division Chief for Digital Services and Solution Strategy at the General Services Administration. Dr. Gil Alterovitz is the Director of the Artificial Intelligence at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Rear Admiral David Hahn is the Chief of Naval Research at the Department of Navy, and Eric Forsetter is the General Manager for Public Sector at Data Robot. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the panel discussion, the Artificial Intelligence Playbook for Government, sponsored by Data Robot on Federal News Network. I've been your host, Jason Miller. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Data Robot.